Melodies studio. Today I'm going to make a short video about my equipment, my setup, how I achieve the guitar tones that I do. To begin with, I want to talk about amplifiers. So amplifiers are the backbone of your sound when you're playing electric guitar. And there are lots of different types of amps. And what I found personally works the best for me is a blend of multiple amps. So each amp will have its own palette, its tonal characteristics that it's known for. The twin reverb is probably one of the most iconic amp. It's been around for decades. It's heard on hundreds of albums. You know, virtually every studio will have a twin reverb or a twin reverb-like amplifier. It's just a beautiful, clean amp with a lot of string note definition and a lot of headroom and sparkle. It's got that iconic Fender tone that you think about when you think of electric guitar. A lot of people would think of the twin reverb. Next is the Mesa Boogie. I use the Mesa Recto Verve 25. It's a rectifier amp. What I don't like about Mesa Boogies is oftentimes you have to play them on volume 7 or 8 to get that really saturated, tube-driven distortion. The problem with playing at such loud volumes is it's not usable in a home practice setting, you know, or a small venue even. And the Recto 25 makes that possible. I can achieve that gritty, overdriven tone without pushing the volume so high. So on lower volumes, I get that same saturated snarl that Mesa Boogie is known for. And it also really helps with the blending of that and the twin reverb. I use the Ultimate Chorus. It's another Fender amp. It's a stereo chorus, so I've used a lot of different chorus effects pedals and never really got that shimmery chorus effect that I love. And again, I found that getting my effects straight from the amp is a much purer, cleaner way of getting that sound. And it's a better sound, a fuller sound. This splits the chorus between two 12-inch speakers. It's a combo amp. And that's a solid state amp. Now, I prefer tube amps. I think a lot of guitar players prefer tube amps. Tube amps have a lot of charm, a lot of character, a lot of headroom. They're warm, and they break up at a certain point. So it makes for very nice overdriven tones and distortion as well. Versus solid state amps, which, you know, I personally have always found kind of brittle and sterile as amplifiers go. And so if I had to pick any amp, I would always pick a tube amp. If I were blending only two amps, I would blend two tube amps. But in my situation, I'm fortunate enough to have a lot more than that going on, and I'm able to incorporate a solid state. And I wouldn't incorporate just any solid state because I think a lot of them would bring the sound quality down. But the Ultimate Chorus is awesome for what it does. And I use it just as I would an effects pedal. So rather than stepping on a chorus effect, I'll step on my amp channel and access the chorus amp. I think it's a better way to achieve effects. And finally, the Valve Junior. So that's an Epiphone amp, just a very straightforward tube amp. Uses one tube and one volume control. It sounds like your standard sort of 40s jazz box. It's very clean, mellow, warm sounding. Now, the ultimate challenge in any setup, I think, is getting your signal from your guitar to your amp with as few problems as possible, as few filters, right? And that's what all of these pedals are. They are filters for your signal. Your signal goes through this chain a relay between all these pedals, and by the time it gets to your amp, it's drastically changed, and your sound won't be as good either from the amp or from the pedal. You want as least resistance as possible. And the way that I do that is going through the octa switch. That's this red box right in the middle. So octa meaning 8. It's got 8 different switches that are all effects loops. And on each channel I can program any variety of analog or digital effects that I want to play simultaneously. So for example, if I want tremolo, reverb, and a little delay, I can program that manually on a channel, and when I step on that channel, it will access those effects. It's a true bypass system, so what it does is my guitar signal goes into the Carl Martin, the octa switch, and comes out of the Carl Martin sounding like it hasn't gone through any kind of process. It allows me to use these pedals without actually going through them, which is really cool. There's a lot of pedals out there that do that, or switching pedals, I should say, and I've just found Carl Martin is one of the best that I've tried. It also has a buffer on it. I don't use the buffer very often because I think it alters my sound. It changes the characteristics of my just basic guitar tone, and I try to stay away from that as much as possible. So, can't talk enough about Carl Martin and the octa switch. And so how do I blend the amps together? And that is through the Morley ABC. So this is a 3-way switcher. Guitar goes into the ABC and then 3 channels come out. It's a true bypass. I can plug it in if I want to see the flashy lights, but if I leave the 9-volt out, it still functions as it should. And that's what I mean by purity. It's not augmenting my sound at all. So my guitar goes into the Morley. Channel A is for the Twin Reverb 2, channel B is for the Ultimate Chorus, and channel C is for the Mesa Boogie. Channel A handles all of my effects. I use 2 different types of effects. Those are analog, and this is the Digitech GNX 3000. Sounds very futuristic, but it isn't. It was one of the early multi-effects pedals created. It hasn't been manufactured in, I don't know, probably a decade or more. And this is an amp emulator. So what it's designed to do is replicate the tones that you get out of amps like Fenders or Mesas or Marshalls, and allow you to access those amp tones and mix and match them, a lot like what I'm describing here using the real amplifiers, which is a great concept and idea, but again, the effects box doesn't match what the amp sounds like. And so for my ear, all of those tones and sounds really sounded similar and sounded very cheesy. They sounded like kind of one straight amp emulation, but out of the 90s with a variety of different effects woven in. Just didn't sound pure, it didn't sound good. But with these older units, you can cut that component out of it. It also links to my computer, and so I can program all of the modulations using really intricate features. So I have full control over the parameters of any of the modulations within the Digitech, which makes it extremely useful. It's a very cool tool. It doesn't replace analog pedals. Analog pedals are magic. When you find one with just the right recipe that adds to your playing and makes it that much more fun or colorful, that's a beautiful thing. And I'm not trying to detract from that. I'm saying still use all your pedals, just here's a very clean way to do it. And the new multi-effects pedals are great too. They're making better ones every year. A lot of guitar players swear by them. A lot of professional guitar players now have switched over and are using emulators rather than real amps because they tour a lot and they don't want to take all of this on the road with them. And so, you know, the newer models are very versatile, very useful. But in terms of a studio setting or a practice setting, I'm really a believer in speakers. So in my setup, I'm using 11 speakers, 6 through the twin reverb. So the twin reverb powers the 4x12-inch cabinet, 2 through the chorus, 2 through the Mesa Boogie. I have 2 separate cabinets on both sides. And then the Valve Junior when I'm using the GNX 3000. So that's 11 12-inch speakers, all pushing air at me. And so when I play a chord, I can really feel it. It sounds great, it feels great, and it's exactly the way you want an electric guitar to ring out. And then through the use of all these different tools, I'm able to shape my tone and create just kind of any palette that I want. And that's it. So I hope you learned something from this quick presentation, and have a good day.